There we go. Morning, Long Beach Coastal. Morning, good morning. Morning, Calabasas. Good morning, West Side. Good to see everybody. Thanks for joining. Great meeting today. Looking forward to hear from the Economist. Here, I'm just going to admit him to become a panelist. Our friend and senior economist for the C.A.R, California Association, Ask Away. Going to hear from him in a couple of minutes. Let me share my screen so we can start. Happy Wednesday, everybody. 6 months into the year 2021, 6 months, under 6 months left. That's faster than you can even imagine. So far, so good. Stephanie.
Okay, if you get tired, learn to rest, not to quit.
Tired? Never.
Never. What are you talking about? So what does that mean to me? Is that the next question? All right, so just, it's plain and simple. I mean, if you get tired, just reflect, right? Rejuvenate, do what you can to recharge, but keep going. Just, it's part of the process of growing, right? And part of the process of getting to the next level. It's just, you got to breathe in, rest, move on, but never quit. Quitting is not an option.
Yeah, 100%. And study all the success stories of any company, right? Any entrepreneur, whatever you can find in research. It was never a direct line from point A to point B. It's a journey. It's a process. You're gonna come across with a lot of resistance and failure and hardships and whatever that is. It doesn't matter, right? It's all about focusing and keep engaging and always better improve yourself, because part of the journey is to become a better person, a different person. So quitting is not an option. Never. So I guess learn how to rest. That's another possibility. Stephanie, thanks for sharing. This is all yours, by the way, Calabasas. Great work. Few cappers that we just had. Well done, guys. Stephanie?
Yeah, congratulations, Rita. You're just a graceful class act, and congratulations on getting to 100%.
Amazing, Rita. Congratulations.
And Linda White, congratulations to you. It's so well deserved, and everything that you've been conquering in your life, and you just do it with a smile on your face, and you are moving forward. You took that quote to a whole new level of never quitting. So congratulations.
Well said. I'm gonna second that for sure. Yeah, good job, Linda. Proud of you.
Woohoo! And Lior. So congratulations. You and Healy work your butts off every single day. I love seeing, feeling your energy in the office all the time. And congratulations on getting to 100%.
And that's fresh out of this morning. And together with Lior, we also have
Denise Marks, woohoo! Who's up in Paso having a little rest and relaxation, as well deserved, finally getting out and have some alone time with her husband. So congratulations on your hard work. I love being in business with you. Congrats,
Denise. Well done, Denise and team. All right, and shout out to all the June closings. Well, that was another busy month for us. Westside producers, great job, guys. Congratulations. This office is picking up fast. Well done. Calabasas, look at this list. Unstoppable. Well done, guys. Another strong month for the books. A lot of cappers, as you can see over here as well. I see some of the names. And Long Beach, well done, guys. Keep rocking it. Good job over there. All the solo agents and the teams out of the Long Beach office. And welcome to our offices, Calabasas.
Yeah, and he's actually here, Anaf Chowdhury. Is that right? So welcome. We're excited to have you part of the KW Calabasas and KW family.
Welcome, Anaf. And to the west side, we have Chloe, who just joined us, near agent. And Nicole moved from a different company. She's a producing agent. Welcome to the Westside team. Good to have you guys. We couldn't have Diane today. She's one of our Calabasas agents in KW, and she is the board president for the Southern Regional. And just want to say hi. She had to go to attend a different meeting, but she welcomed everybody to join. There was a big on the annual golf charity that will take place in the Porter Ranch Country Club. And if you're a golfer or wish you would be a golfer, come and join. It's $160 per golfer, including breakfast and lunch. And all the information, you can go online to sr.com/charity-golf2021. And if you wish to sponsor, they have those packages as well. And that was from Diane in very, very short. Thanks, Diane. I just want to leave enough room for Oscar Way, a senior economist, director of research with the California Association. Oscar, good to have you.
Thank you, Meny, for having me again. And I feel a lot of energy this morning, with a lot of positive messages from your office and, a lot of energy. So that's great, and I'm glad to hear that your office is actually doing great. It's been, of course, a lot of uncertainties for the last, 18 months or so, 16, 18 months or so. And of course, at the very beginning, when you first invited me, I think it was probably April or May. There were a lot of things that we were not sure, how it's going to turn out. And I'm going to show you some slides, and Meny, I'm going to send you the PowerPoint deck later on after the presentation. But let me share that slide deck right now. Let's see.
Yeah, you should be able to share your screen.
And
thanks again, Oscar. Just personal thank you for being out there for us, available all the time. It's kind of great to see. Right now we're 6 months into 2021, right? To understand the, all the stats, all the numbers, state of the real estate, and see what happened the last 6 months. Yeah, you're good to go.
Absolutely. No, so let me. Okay, so I have a slide deck up, and I'm going to exactly share what you just mentioned, Meny. I'm going to go back a little bit of what happened 12 months ago, 13 months ago, to show you how nerve-wracking it was at the beginning of the shutdown, and then I'm going to show everyone some information along the way that we have seen in the last 18 months or so. I think I've presented 4 or 5 times already, so some of the information you might have already seen. But here's what I'm going to cover today for the next 45 minutes or 15 minutes or so. I am going to talk about how demand has become very robust in the last 10 months or so, since maybe about July of last year. And at the same time, because of the heated market, we have been seeing home prices skyrocketed. You have seen the statewide median price at continue to set new records. I'm going to show you those, and there are reasons why we're seeing home prices increasing at a record pace. Supply is definitely an issue. I know many of you have been having a tough time actually getting getting listings listed on the MLS, and as such, tight supply has been one of the theme of the last 10, 12 months or so. It increased a lot of it increased the market competitiveness for the overall market, for your market. At the same time, it also, because of those market competitiveness, it actually created a lot of affordability issues for some of the buyers as well. So, with that in mind, I'm going to show you those numbers very shortly. But with that in mind, I am also going to talk about what's going to happen with the upcoming 6 months, half a year or so, maybe going forward to 2022. Now, the economy, the state has reopened, since June 15. There are still, of course, businesses that are not in full capacity. We still have concerns about the Delta variant, but the reopening would have some impact. Will have some impact on the economy. It's going to have some impact on the market as well. So, what are some of those impacts, and how are those going to affect the second half of the year? Let's take a look first at what happened in the last 16 months or so. I think this slide I must have shared before. May 2020, 13 months ago, we had a significant decline in sales. Look at, what happened. These are sales number compared to the year before, compared to 2019. We had a shutdown, and it caused a lot of decline in sales and decline in price, and also, some changes in inventory. Look at the drop in sales at that time, 41% for the month of May, and then for the first 5 months of the year, it dropped 13%. And that's understandable because at that time, there were a lot of uncertainties, as I mentioned. The last time we had a recessions and economic recessions was in 2008, 2009, 2010. And what happened back then? We saw prices drop significantly, cut in half. We saw sales drop significantly as well throughout the year between, I think, 2006, 2007, and so on. And so people were concerned. Buyers, who were ready to buy at the before the pandemic, held off a little bit because they didn't know exactly what's going to happen to price. Look at price in May. People decided, okay, well, let's wait for a minute. Let's see how things are panning out first, because that was new. The pandemic was new. It was not exactly a housing related market downturn. It was more like a public health concern, right? So people actually did not take their properties or listings off the market right away. We did have unsold inventory actually rose a little bit by 34.4%, partly because of the sales softening up a little bit. So as people started getting used to, the new normal, quote unquote, new normal, and they realized, okay, well, the economic recessions is really because of the public health concern. We had the shutdown, but at the same time, they realized the Federal Reserve, the federal government did actually jump in and did a lot of stuff. Interest rate went down to a level that we haven't seen before, below 3% for a 30-year fixed rate. I think at one point it went down to 2.65 for the average 30-year fixed rate. And as such, people who were not affected by the pandemic, they went back into the market. Look at what happened 12 months later. The latest statistics that we will have June's number coming out in about 10 days or so. Take a look at these numbers. Sales, this is a sales number, sales figure compared to a year ago, increased by 87%. And it's not just that single month of May 2021. Look at the year-to-date number, meaning the first 5 months of the year. For the first 5 months of the year compared to the year before, we were up 35% compared to last year. Part of the reason, of course, is because of the shutdown, the uncertainties that took place in March, April, and May. But there are some. The market is really have been performing really well, and I will show you some numbers comparing to the pre-pandemic level later on. So just taking a look at the snapshot, price went up. You probably are very aware in your market, as well as some of the regional and state number. Home prices have gone up significantly. At the state level, it went up by close to 40%, and that's partly because of, look at the unsold inventory index. This shows you the months of inventory based on the current sales pace. It actually dropped 58%, 59% or so, and that's partly because, and then the tight supply created a market competitiveness in the market. A property typically stay on the market for less than 7 days or so. Now, this is just a snapshot. Let's go into a little bit more detail, giving you a little bit more historical number to look at. This is a chart that shows you sales figured throughout, going back to 2005. And, the number that we want to focus on right now is on the right-hand side here. Take a look at this V-shaped dip. We did have, this is where the shutdown happened. It shut down, this is May, I think. It dropped down to a very, very low level. And then within a very short period of time, we started climbing back. This level, which was only 2 months after the shutdown, was already above the pre-pandemic level a little bit. So look at the recovery. It actually continued to increase. Now, lately, though, I want to bring it to your attention. Lately, in the last few months, the last 2 or 3 months or so, start seeing some slowdown. And you can see the number right here, the 2.7% month-to-month percent change suggests that we're seeing a little bit of a slowdown here. Now, part of it could be seasonality, because last year we did not have seasonality, right? Last year, everyone basically, kids, many of you know, there we have seasonality during a year, because kids usually go to summer, usually gets off during the summer. Parents want to get all the housing market activity done before the kids go back to school, right? Last year was different. Last year, kids actually stay home and maybe do remote learning. So the seasonality was not there, and that's why last year, if you look at what happened last year, sales actually has been climbing even further, at the end of last year. And then this year, though, compared to last year, we're having a little bit more seasonality, and that's why we're kind of resuming a little bit of what happened at the end, in the middle of the year. We do expect a bit of a slowdown, just because of, compared to last year, just because of how hectic last year was. But still, we believe it's going to be a strong year. But what I want to point out also is, if you look at that sharp decline right here, take a look at how fast the recovery happened as compared to what happened in 2005, 2006, 7, and 8. Now let's look at the bottom, the bottom of that sales trend. 2000, at the end of 2007, that's when we start seeing a recession, and it took about a year and a half for the sales to get back to somewhat normal, to the pre-recession level. This time it took a lot faster, and because it was all partly because of interest rates. It was partly because of people realizing how important home is now that a lot of people work from home. So for the second half of the year, I still believe that we are going to have a pretty decent second half of the year. I have to caution everyone that compared to second half of last year, it may not be as high in terms of the sales level, just because last year we did hit a very record low number of interest rates, but also because of supply. We have been having some supply issue. We'll go into a bit more into it a little later. Now let's dissect it a little further and take a look at different price point. Sales have been doing fine, but it may not be every single price point. Some price points are actually doing less impressive than others. You look at the lowest price point, I think I've shown this before, but this month or May, it's actually even significant, the difference. The highest price point, $1 million and $2 million plus, it has been increasing by 200%, 300%. Now keep in mind, again, we're comparing to the shutdown month. Of course, we're going to see significant difference. But the lowest price point, it's actually not showing much of an improvement compared to last year. Partly because of supply, but also partly because, I think I've explained this before, the recessions had a greater impact on lower income households, and because many of the lower income households, many people in the lower income household, they work in the service sectors, and the economy affected the service sectors a bit more compared to those who actually can work from home. So it affects demand in the lower price segments. Now, there's a reason why I want to show you this, is to show you the breakdown here. The significant increase in a higher price point and the not so impressive lower price point did make a change in the mix of sales. Look at the difference. Last year, for about 50%, close to half of the sales belong to the below 500,000. This year, for May, only 28%. But if you look at the sales are actually stronger. Overall sales are actually stronger than last year. So where did the sales go? To the higher price point, to the 500 to $1 million, but also to the $1 million plus. Take a look at the $1 million plus. It jumped from 16% to 30%. So we have a lot more higher price point sales. Now this one illustrates a little bit better what happens over the period of time. This is where the COVID-19 outbreak is, around March, late March or so. Take a look at the share of sales below 500 and the share of sales for with the green line of $1 million plus. It has been pretty stable, right? About for $1 million, maybe around 18, 19% or so, until this the outbreak. The outbreak actually started because of low interest rates, because of people who work from home are being able to hold back their job a little bit better. the $1 million plus home sales actually started rising, while on the other hand, the 500 and below sales share started actually dipping. In April and May, the last couple months, we actually saw a phenomenon that we haven't seen for years. That is, million plus home actually made up a bigger share of sales than the 500 and below. And that there is a reason I want to show you that also, because of the change in the mix of sales. It actually affects the sales at the statewide median price. Now, I showed you a snapshot earlier. The median price increased by close to 40%, 39.1% to be exact, compared to last year. Part of it is due to, of course, tight supply, low interest rates, and push up home prices. But part of it also is because of the change in the mix of sales. The median price is basically, by definition, the price right in the middle, right? So if you have more sales, above, let's say $1 million plus, it pulled the median price up. Now, I did a calculation, and roughly about half of what we're seeing here, the 39%, is probably because of the change in the mix of sales. But that still leave like 20% or so of the price growth as actual price growth. So when you talk to your client might ask you how much have how much has prices gained in the last 12 months or so. If you look at the statewide median price, it shows 40%, but in terms of price growth, actual price appreciation, maybe a little less than that, but still at a double-digit rate, 15 to 20%. So I want to point that out, because now going forward, because we have been seeing some increase in price in the last 12 months or so, the growth rate is going to slow down a little bit. This number, this is the month-to-month percent change in price. Now, in May, we actually hit a record high for the state median of over 800 for the second month in a row. April, we had 805 or so, and then we had 818. So that's a record high. Now that, are we going to set more new record highs? It's possible that we will see that record high again in June, but I want to point out the month-to-month percent change here, because if you look at the month-to-month percent change, we are seeing some slowdown. Now for March, meaning from February to March, the increase month-to-month was around 8%. From March to April, the increase was about 7% or so. And now it's actually 0.5%. Now, part of it is due to seasonality. There's no doubt about it. But if you compare it to the normal in the long run, from April to May, we should see a 1% increase. The fact that we're seeing a 0.5% increase, a little bit smaller than what the normal is, suggests to me that we're slowing down a little bit. And I'm not surprised, because we could be seeing some increase in interest rate in the second half of the year, but we also have been seeing prices rising a lot faster compared to previous years. So a little bit of a slowdown is not a surprise. I can assure you, though, most likely on a year-over-year basis, we are going to see double-digit gain compared to last year. But on a month-to-month basis, or compared to the peak price, we may actually start seeing some slowdown. And this one is just to take away the square footage. If someone may ask, prices are gaining faster or increasing, is it because people are buying bigger houses? So if you take out the square footage, you look at the price per square footage, it's still increasing close to 40%. So it's pretty impressive, what we have gone through the last 12 months or so. But I do want to caution everyone that we might have seen the peak, or maybe in the coming months or June's number, you may actually see it as the peak. And from that point, we might actually see some slowdown. Now, individual price segments also exhibit different behavior. When I say individual price segments, I use percentile here. The bottom fifth of sales versus the top fifth of the sales. To put it in price point or price range, the 0 to 20th percentile, meaning the bottom fifth, probably represents price range around 0 to 400. It's increasing by a pretty impressive 33%. But compared to the top 20th percentile, which means probably somewhere around 1.5 million to and up, it's increasing even more, 50%. So the top price, the top sales in the top 20th percentile, they're increasing a little bit more than the rest of the price segments. Now, of course, it has to do with, I said, low interest rates. But low interest rates actually continue to be low compared to last year. Now, when you look at the May number of this year compared to May of last year, it's down by about 28%, 27% or so. But I do want to show you, if you look at the downward trend from last year, June, July, August, the interest rates continued to go down. I think in August, it actually went down to 2.93 for the average 30-year fixed rate. So my prediction is by about August or so, in next month, we actually may see the interest rate being level compared to last year. Now that could mean, people who have been observing or looking at, interest rates, they might think, okay, well, interest rates are actually rising a little bit. And as of today, I still see interest rates actually for the last few days, it still start actually staying at, below 3%. But it is possible that we may actually see interest rate rising a little bit in the next couple months or so. And when people look compared to last year, they're not going to have advantage this year compared to last year as far as the cost of borrowing. It's about the same. So keep in mind that may or may not be any factors to the buyers. But what you can see, I should go back, but what you should notice also is, even if they have the same interest rate, because home prices actually have gone up so much, mortgage payment have gone up by about 20-30% compared to last year, depending on the size of home that you're buying and the price of the home that you're buying. So buyers probably are aware of that, and so you're seeing more high-end home being sold, sold and purchased, partly because they have the capability of buying a home, maybe shifting more towards the high-end segment, continue to shift more towards the high-end segments, I should say. Inventory, I mentioned about inventory, is one of the main reasons why home prices have gone up and continue to do so. It remained at 1.8 months compared to last year at 4.3. So it remained at below 3 months, but below 2 months. But if you look at the bottom, the right-hand side here, this is where the dip or the bottom was. At one point, we were at 1.3 months. I think it was February or so. And then it started rising a little bit. The months of supply actually increased slightly from 1.6 in April to 1.8. So what does that really mean? Now, this is a ratio between sales and supply. You use the number of supply and number of listings divided by the sales pace. So it could mean anything. It could mean a couple of things. One, we have a more increase in active listings compared to April, but the other part of it also could be we are selling less than before overall. So let's take a look and see what happened. Let me skip this one. Let's take a look at new listings. You and I both know it's been very, very tough in getting new listings. These are new listings numbers at the state level of single family home, and going back from 2018 all the way to May 2021. The May number, if you compare it to last year, it's a bigger number. It looks like a bigger number, and it is a 2.3% higher than last year. But if you just compare it to last year, it may look good. But if you compare that to the pre-pandemic level 2 years ago and 3 years ago, we're still down by about 9,000 or so. So compared to what we had pre-pandemic, we're still way below. Now, another way to take a look at it is to compare the monthly sales versus the monthly new listings. I'm showing you 2018 through the current month. The green bar is sales. The blue bar, those are new listings added each month. you can see before the pandemic, 2018, 2019, for most of the time during the month, we see new active listings above sales. Same for 2019, except maybe for, a couple months at the end of the year. But look at what happened in the past 12 months. Green bar, starting in July, continue to exceed new listings. That's the reason why we're seeing inventory continue to be depleted. Now, until we actually close the gap, until we start seeing new listings above sales, we're not going to see any improvement on this line. This orange line here shows you on a year-over-year basis how much active listings, not just new listings, how much active listings we have been losing. We have been losing 40% or so. Until we start seeing more new listings and sales, it might be tough to recover. And that is actually going to continue to put upward pressure on prices, but also it will eat into sales. What happens when you have not enough new listings on the market and people will still want to buy? Well, you create a lot of market frenzy and of course a lot of competitiveness. Days on market is one indicator that shows you the market competitiveness. For the state as a whole, the overall listings have been on the market for only 7 days. 7 days and it's gone. Now, I'm not going to get into technicalities and all that stuff because I know part of it could be because of the new coming soon status. But we're not going to talk about that because that's going to take me a whole session to talk about it. But just overall, 7 days, we are seeing 7 days as compared to a year ago, 18 days. So in general, listings are flying off the shelf. What other indicators also could to indicate the market as being very, very hot or very competitive? Take a look at the percent of listings or sold properties with above asking price. This again is the latest number. 71, close to 71% of all the existing homes being sold were sold above asking price. Look at how it has been increasing. A year ago, it was at around 32, 34%, and compared to 4 years ago, it was about 25%. So many homes were being sold above asking price, even though we have a very high home price already. So what happened when you have high home prices, a lot of people bidding up prices, it eat into the affordability, eat into buyers' affordability. And you can see some comparison here. This column and this column shows you the income required to buy a median price home, the 818,000 that I show at the state level. In order to buy well, not exactly the 818 because this is the first quarter number, so probably somewhere around 750,000, 780,000 or so. So in order to buy that home, you need an income. Let's say you put a 20% down payment. Then also the amount you pay for mortgages and insurance and all that stuff represents about 30% of your income. You need an income of 131,200. If you compare it to a year ago, that number increased by 17,200 in just a year. Now, how many of you actually has an increase in income by 17,000? Probably not a whole lot within a year. So it gets a little tough, and it probably will get even tougher for many of the would-be buyers, when interest rates start rising. And here's the affordability index that shows you the percent of households that can afford to buy a median price home. Only about 27% for the state as a whole. And if you want to look at individual county, which I'll show you in a minute, LA County and Ventura actually is at around 25 to 27%. Let's take a look. I know I've shown you a lot of the state level information. Let's take a look at some regional stuff. I'm going to show you the Southern California region. I'm going to show you LA County and Ventura County, but also I'm going to show you some city level stuff that you can use and share with your clients as well. And I'll show you at the end, maybe during the Q&A sessions, where to get some of those slides that you can actually download. But first, let's take a look at the regional stuff. Southern California makes up about 55% of all sales in the state. So it's not a surprise to see a similar trend. Take a look at the year over year, 80% increase compared to the previous year, not a surprise. And also take a look at the first 5 months, 37% increase in sales compared to the same time last year. Not a surprise also. Now, I do want to, again, reiterate that second half of the year, it's not going to be as robust as 36% increase. In fact, I think we might actually see some a decline in sales compared to last year. But all in all, when you add up the entire year, we will end up having a positive number. What about price? Price also showing a 30+% increase in price compared to last year. And again, that's because of tight supply. Look at the time of market, still 7 days. Here are the individual county. Individual county, if you look at what I have here are raw data, but I'm showing the month to month and also the year to year and also the year to date, which means the first 5 months. Ignore the first 5 months for now. Look at the year over year. Yes, we're increasing significantly. I know you're interested more in LA County and Ventura. Take a look at how significant the increase has been. 80% and almost 120% for Ventura as a whole. But again, let me point out the month to month are seeing a little bit of a slowdown. Again, we could be transitioning or moving into this slower season, but also because of the interest rates possibly affecting the desire. And you have heard the term buyer's fatigue. I don't actually have a slide here, but we collect some information on a weekly basis. We ask our members how many people, how many members have observed people, buyers who express buyer's fatigue. Last weekly update, I think it was right around 40%, 45% or so, which means buyers could be taking a break because they're feeling a little frustrated. I am sure some of you may have experienced that also. And that number seems to be actually inching up a little bit in the last couple of weeks, but it's still early to say. But tight supply and continuously offering, making offers and not getting not getting a hold of a property, I can understand how it could frustrate some of the buyers. Now, let's take a look at again the aggregated number first. I think I mentioned earlier, it's not fair to compare it to just last year because last year we had a downturn, right? So, of course, it's going to show 80%, 90% increase in sales or even 100 to 20% for Ventura. Let's compare that to the pre-pandemic, quote unquote, normal. The dark green line here, that's the 3-year average from 2017 to 2019. The light green bar here is this year's level. So LA and Ventura, if you compare those two to the pre-pandemic normal, it's still up 8.1% and 13% respectively, which means we are doing much better compared to the pre-pandemic level. Which means, yes, it is because of interest rate. It is also because of people desire to buy a home. And moving forward, and when I say move forward, pending sales, which suggests June's number, which happened already, still suggests that we are seeing some double-digit increase in sales for LA and Ventura. So we should be doing okay in June. And July, it's a little too early to say. I think I'll have to take a look at some numbers, but I do believe we should have some solid number for July as well. Maybe not as robust as what we saw at the end of last year, but probably still a decent number. And the reason why we're not seeing as robust a number is, again, because of supply. Supply remaining a constraining factors for not only sales, but for price as well. Look at how much listings have dropped. 40%, close to 40% for LA, and for Ventura, 64% drop for Ventura. So a significant drop compared to last year. And that created, again, market competitiveness. Look at Ventura and LA, dropped in terms of days on market by almost half, or actually more than half for Ventura. And this is another slide that I showed earlier. This shows you how competitive market is, how competitive the market is. Again, 7 out of 10 homes being sold were sold above asking price. For LA, it's almost double what we had a year ago, and compared to the beginning of 2017, it was probably 3 times more. But for Ventura, even higher. I think back then, 4 years ago, was only about 15% homes being sold with above asking price. And that's why, the median price continued to stay at a very high level. We set a new record, I think, for LA for median price. Ventura, I think in April was the record high for Ventura as far as median price. The price increase for LA is a little bit higher compared to Ventura, over 30% as compared to 18.3%. So home prices will continue to stay at a very high level. This, I kind of discussed it without showing the graph earlier, with housing affordability staying at a low level for both LA and Ventura. So here are the city level statistics. I'm showing a few regions. I'm showing Calabasas, I'm showing South Bay, I'm showing Long Beach, as well as West Side. And I put them into different sections. Now, some section may have more cities than others, and you may not be able to see all the cities that you want to see within that region. And I will tell you afterwards where to get those slides. Here are some snapshots. For Calabasas, I picked Agoura Hills, I think Westlake Village, and Calabasas. The theme is pretty much the same for most slides. Sales, most of them, except for Agoura Hills here, sales increase, price increase, sales increase, active listing down. So, in this case, Agoura Hill actually did not have an increase in price, in median price. There's actually a dip, but it shows a significant increase in sales. Now, of course, we're looking at a very small number here, 20 sales, compared to, some other areas may have 100 or so. So supply remained tight, sales continue to be, people continue to be motivated to buy, and price actually, most of them are actually show an increase. Now, if you look at those market competitive at the bottom, it also shows you some indicators. I'll touch upon some of them when we come across. Next one is Calabasas. Again, double-digit increase in price, sales increased by a significant number, listings, of course, dipped significantly. Days on market, typically only 5 days. Now, for Westlake Village, the number of days on market is a little bit higher. But also sales continue to increase. Look at active listings, drop more than 70%. Long Beach, 6 days on market, and that pushed home prices up. Sales up 27.5%. Take a look at the sales to list price ratio. More than 50%, probably 60, 70% of them have a price above asking price. Long Beach, again, double-digit increase in sales price, and also drop in listings by 1/3. South Bay, Gardena, this one I have a few more cities. Gardena, 24% increase in sales and price, home sales by close to 100%. And active listing actually did not drop that much, but look at how small active listing is. So only 12 number of active listings. Now the beach communities, I see a little bit of fluctuation in some of the beach communities. Price and sales continue to increase pretty significantly, but take a look at the sales to list price ratio. Most of the sales to list price ratio are above 100 for the median. For Hermosa Beach, it's actually dipped a little bit below 100. For Manhattan Beach, it's actually right at 100. So the beach community, as far as negotiating with sellers, maybe not as much as, or actually have a little bit more negotiation power compared to some of the other communities. But still see, significant increase in price, significant increase in sales. Palos Verdes actually show a slight dip in median price. It could, again, has to do with the small number of observations. Take a look at how significant an increase the home sales is here. And Rancho Palos Verdes, significant increase in price and sales. And look at the sales to list price ratio. People are willing to offer 8% increase in the list price. Redondo Beach, also double-digit gain in price and sales, and significant drop in active listing. Torrance, I think, oh, actually, this one might be the last one for South Bay, and then I have one more section for West Side. Also double-digit gain in price and triple-digit gain in home sales. And again, sales to list price ratio, 7.7% above the list price. West Side, Beverly Hills usually is an area that has a longer median time on market, which I'm not surprised to see 33 days. But look at the sales to list price also is below 100. So there has been maybe a little bit more going back and forth between buyers and sellers here. Culver City, a slight 1% decline in median price. Sales increased by triple digit, and also with active listing dropping by a quarter. And then this is the last one. Santa Monica, as far as price, is actually dipped a little bit compared to last year, with a pretty significant increase in sales, and price actually, property stay on the market for 15 days. So all these slides, you can actually get from the C.A.R. website. Now, I'll verbally give you the address where you can get those slides, but I'll show you later on if we have time. It's on the CAR.org website. If you go to Industry 360, click on Industry 360, it will take you to the market data page. And then on the right-hand side, you will see a column that includes housing market overview. That's when you click on the housing market overview, you see a dashboard where you can select county, and then you see a bunch of cities. So I'll show you later on if we have time. Let's take a look though for the last 10 minutes or so about how it's going to impact the reopening, how it's going to impact the outlook of the economy as well as the market. Now, in order to look at the market, of course, we need to know how it affects the economy first, because it does have some impact. So let's quickly take a look at the economy. Now, the reason why, I think I mentioned earlier, the state reopened in June, on June 15. Now, not everything opened all at once, but a lot of restaurants and bars, they opened. And the reason why we are able to reopen the economy is because of collectively, we're doing a pretty good job in California. Take a look at what I meant by collectively. At the end of last year or beginning of this year, this is the average number of daily cases increase. We were increasing by 60,000 cases and COVID cases at the beginning of this year, and then has come down at the lowest. We've gone down to about 500 cases on an average daily basis, which is great. We did all that we could do. Social distancing. Of course, we also have vaccinations that help to keep the number of cases down. Now, recently in the last few days, though, we are seeing a little bit of increase because of the Delta variant. You're aware of the Delta variant. It has increased some cases in LA County and California as well. So, that's something hopefully we can continue to practice what we need to practice to make sure that we, keep that under control. Now, number of vaccinations in California and LA and Ventura County, number of people who have gotten, the first one dose, 58%, close to 60%. For LA County and Ventura, very close. Number of people who received both vaccinations, about half. Now, there's some room for improvement, but it looks like it's plateauing right now. So with those vaccinations, with those improvement in COVID cases, people are actually able to go out and do more activities. And that's how it improved the economy. The Google, using their apps, they can actually detect or find out how many people are actually spending time outside their house. And look at the blue line and the green line. This shows you the comparison between, the number of activities or percent of activities compared to pre-pandemic level at the beginning of 2020. We're still down by 6.4% as of June 25th, 6.4% in terms of activity compared to pre-pandemic. But it's much better when compared to what happened at the beginning of the year. We were down close to 20%. And more importantly, if you look at the activities at restaurants and retail sales, We're still down by about 15%, but at the sort of the peak, that we were down close to 35, 37%. So we have done a lot of improvement. And because of that improvement, and that's the reason why we're increasing some economic activity, increasing the retail sales. In March, if you look at first the second line here, the year-over-year change, we have been consistently improving by double digits since March. 30%, 50%, 28%. That's very good. On a month-to-month basis, though, we actually might have dipped a little bit in the last couple of months, but it's not something to worry too much about. The reason why we have a spike here in March was because of the stimulus checks. You know, some people got the distribution of the stimulus check, and we only got, of course, the stimulus checks were only distributed once, or actually twice, I should say, at the end of last year and then beginning of this year. And of course, during the last 12 months, we have gotten stimulus checks too. But after March, we haven't received any stimulus checks, and that's why we're seeing some slowdown in terms of retail sales. But it's actually not too bad. From this point on, when after the reopening, we are going to see some more activities from restaurants and bars. Look at the red line here. It actually spiked up significantly in the last few months because of the reopening, because of people willing to do more restaurants, because of capacity reopening or capacity restrictions being lifted. We were at one point up above 100% for food services and drinking places. People were able to go to restaurants. Now, even though it dipped a little bit recently, but it's still increasing by 71% in terms of change in restaurants revenues and things like that. So that's encouraging. Even for the green line, if you exclude restaurants and bars, we're still improving 24%. By that rate, based on Wells Fargo's number, Wells Fargo projected that service sector, this red line here, is going to go back to the pre-pandemic level, maybe in the fourth quarter or so. And so things are moving pretty nicely in terms of economic activity. The other part of it that we can use some improvement is the unemployment rate, the labor market, the job recovery. We were at 15%, close to 15% unemployment rate, and then it has improved. Currently, it is at 5.9%. We would love to have it a little bit faster, but it has, because of other reasons, things like parents have to take care of their kids because of childcare issues, but also because of still some people are not completely, some businesses may not have completely reopened with 100% capacity because they want to see how things actually pan out, but also because of the federal unemployment benefit. Prior to the last few weeks, actually, I think federal unemployment benefit may have a slight impact on people going back to work, but we are seeing better results. We're seeing, in fact, the highest growth in job growth in the last 10 months. So that's encouraging. And with that, at that pace, and we're going to improve even further in the next few months, we are going to expect the job losses, the number of job increase to actually improve. And by maybe about the second quarter of this year, of next year, we probably will be back to the pre-pandemic level. So that's encouraging. And how is that going to affect economic activity? Now, that is going to, I think, in the third quarter of this year, with with the labor market improving, we are actually going to be above that trend line, above that projection that we had pre-pandemic by about third quarter. Now has a lot to do with low interest rates, with the stimulus checks, and the federal and additional federal unemployment. So all that has actually improved, and the service sector is going to be the main reason, the main driving force in the upcoming quarters. Now, there are reasons why I want to show you all that. I know that's a lot of economic terminologies and things like that. There's a reason why I want to show you this. Now, you can see that in the last few quarters, we have been improving. With improvement in economic activity, and the next few quarters, we will continue to increase by a pretty decent number. We are going to see some increase in inflation. And that's the number that I think for the housing market is particularly concerning. But before we actually talk about inflation, let me show you our predictions for 2021 and 2022. These numbers, I might have shown similar numbers before. We expect the number to increase by close to 7% in 2021 as far as economic activity is concerned. That number is very impressive. We have never seen a 7% increase for the last 10, 15 years. I think the last time we increased that much is probably World War II in the 1940s. So that's pretty impressive. But 2022 also will be a decent increase of close to 4%. As far as unemployment is concerned, we will be below 6% in 2021 and below 5% in 2022. Still not as good as the pre-pandemic level. But the number that I want to show you is the inflation number, the consumer price index. This number in 2021, we are going to increase by close to 3% and a 2.5% in 2022. Take a look at how it compares to the last 5 years. It has always been below 2.5%, sometimes even below 2%. So inflation does have an impact on the market because it in fact affects interest rates. Before I show you the interest rates, the state of California will also improve, but maybe not as fast as the US. And part of the reason is because we have a lot of activities in the tourist industry, the leisure and hospitality sectors. Because we are still under some sort of travel restrictions, that is going to take a little bit more time for California to recover. So let's take a look at that inflation number. You noticed the inflation number, and just so you know, I have only about 5 more minutes to go. I want to give you a sense of how much more we have. So inflation, you see inflation every day. You've probably you've seen the number for gas prices. Last year, 12 months ago, per gallon gas prices was roughly around below $3, 2.8 per gallon or something like that. Recently, it has gone up to something like $4.5 per gallon. That's inflation. Part of the reason why we're not as concerned is because we have tight supply in gas prices, and it probably will eventually come back down a little bit, but that's actual inflation. But the other reasons why we also have inflation is not just gas prices, but also all of a sudden we have people doing doing activities outside of their house, so it increased the demand of a lot of things, just like home prices. Just like home prices, when you don't have enough supply, you have a lot of demand. All of a sudden, you increase the price. So that's exactly what happens. Some of the businesses may not have increased their capacity to 100%, and so they may not be able to cater or may not be able to satisfy all the demands right away. The question is whether those inflation will be transitory, meaning short-term or long-term. I would say some of them will actually remain short-term, other will be long-term. Just think about this. When a restaurant increased their price on the menu, how many of them do you think will actually lower their price 2 months later? Very unlikely. They may not raise their price as fast in the next year or so, but the chances are they're probably not going to lower the price that much in the upcoming year. But how did the inflation have an impact on? How has the inflation impact mortgage rates so far? We did have a scenario at the end of March and early April that interest rates actually spiked up to close to 3.4%, depending on which one you look at. If you look at Freddie Mac's number, close to 3.2%, but then it started coming back down. In fact, for the last few days, we actually have interest rate coming back down to, below 3%. So question is whether that is going to continue. I personally believe that interest rate will actually start rising a little further because we do have some additional inflation that we anticipate. So if that's the case, then we're actually expecting interest rate to rise, not very, very fast, but actually will rise slightly. That is going to affect pending sales. I think we do expect pending sales to continue to increase in June by close to 10%. maybe in July, it starts slowing down even further. But I think, as I mentioned earlier, the next 6 months is going to show, some slowdown. And we survey some of our members, some of our realtors. We ask them whether they think next week, whether listings, sales, and price will actually go up. It used to be, if you look at this chart, 2 months ago, we used to have a lot of people thinking that, okay, sales are going to go up next week, prices are going to go up, and listings are going to go up. Used to be over 50%, but take a look at these numbers, they start actually climbing down. In fact, sales actually, since we're moving into off season, we might actually see some slowdown in sales. Couple more slides. I promise I'll finish in very, very short, in a few minutes. You might also might have asked me before about whether we are going to see more supply coming on board. Because, okay, well, you've heard about the moratorium, the mortgage moratorium, as well as the eviction moratorium. It's going to expire at the end of July. Is that going to bring a lot of distress sales, REO short sales onto the market? And if that's the case, that's going to flood the market and keep prices down, right? Well, if you look at the delinquency rate, you realize as far as delinquency rate is concerned, it actually started coming down. Even though it spiked when we had a shutdown, it started coming down in the last couple quarters. Now, this is only up to the second quarter of 2020. Last couple quarters, this number has come down even further. So I don't think we're going to see a lot of foreclosed property. We're going to see some, but not a whole lot. The other way to look at it is just see how many people who are actually in the forbearance program right now who are actually default. At the peak, it was about 4.5 or 4.25 million mortgages still in forbearance in June of last year or so. That number has come down since by a lot, by half. Currently, about 2 million mortgages are still in forbearance.
Oscar, it might be just
from that perspective. Now, not all of them are going to. Not all of them are going to.
Oh, Rich, can you also hear a glitch on the volume? Yeah. Yeah. Oscar, hold on for a second because we lost you the last 30 seconds. You're breaking up. Oscar? Maybe it's a glitch on your Wi-Fi or something. Yes. The last 30 seconds we lost you.
Okay. Let me wrap it up. I'm almost done.
Yeah. Okay. I hear you now.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So let me wrap it up. So how many are being foreclosed? How many properties are going to be distress sales? It really depends on how many properties are actually underwater. If you look at this number, the number of forbearances underwater using the LTV ratio, only 0.3%. What happened last recessions in California, 30% were underwater last year. So a significant difference. So that's why I don't believe that it's going to see a significant number of foreclosed properties coming onto the market. If you look at another number, for CoreLogic, they anticipated only about 1.3 of the foreclosed properties or forbearance underwater or negative equity. So that's why I don't think you're going to see a lot of distress sales. At most, I think we are going to see maybe 8%. Last recessions, we had 60% at the peak. I think it's more likely 5% or so. And just to wrap it up, I'm just gonna quickly show you this. Eviction moratorium does affect people's desire to buy, investors' desire to buy. And so with the eviction moratorium coming to the end next month, I think you might see a little bit more investors coming back to the market, but maybe not right away. It might take a couple more months before they come back to see how many renters are actually going to be paying, or going back to the back to normal. So with that said, here's the California housing market outlook. We expect, and we will likely revise these numbers in the next month or so. If you look at sales, we actually expect sales to increase compared to last year by double digit. In terms of price, this number is probably a little too low now. We expect median price to increase more like 20% compared to last year. And 30-year fixed rates for the year as an average, it may end up being around 3.4%, maybe even a little bit lower than that. With that said, here are the highlights. And I apologize for not being able to give you a very smooth the presentation because of the internet connections issues. Here are the concluding remarks. Demand is going to remain pretty decent for the year as a whole. Second half of the year, we are going to see some slowdown, and that's partly because of supply shortage, but also because of increase in interest rates as well. Price is going to continue to see some growth, most likely continue to see double digits for the rest of the year on a year-over-year basis. But from the peak price, you might actually see it actually dipping down a little bit from the peak price, meaning from the peak of June or so. But it still will show a double-digit increase on a year-over-year basis. And the concern, of course, is the economy is doing is getting better, which is great, which is what we want. But also, we'll have some inflationary pressure, which will actually push up interest rate slightly a little bit higher. With that said, I showed you a lot of surveys earlier. If you're willing to participate, go ahead and go to C.A.R.org survey. And here's my my email, oscarw@C.A.R.org. And I don't know whether we have time to for Q&A. I know I ran out of time, so I'll leave it up to Meny.
Oscar, thank you. Brilliant content as always. Lots of information that you shared. And it doesn't matter that we went over time. It was well worth it because we're in very unusual times, and we definitely want to talk to the guys like you that have the crystal ball to a certain extent. And that's not by just, hey, Oscar, what's going to happen tomorrow? Because we have some of those questions. What's going to happen tomorrow? Nobody knows. However, we can always be a student of the past and focus on what we need to do more of. Couple of quick questions, though. Number one, whoever is watching us, right, is on over Zoom. Look at the chat. I did add the link to the market data that Oscar mentioned, and whoever is in the offices, we're gonna have a follow-up email with the recordings and all the links as well in Oscar's The Economist presentation. It's gonna be interesting to meet again towards the end of the year and talk about inflation is definitely something to pay attention to. The stock market, that's another thing that we need to also look at and understand, especially when the high price point, the increases by people of wealth that heavily invested in that area as well. So I think that most questions were general questions, and I'm going to make sure to add your contact information, Oscar, so people can maybe reach out and ask directly if that's okay.
Absolutely, and I apologize, and I'm glad that someone actually pointed out it's absolutely right. At the state level, the eviction moratorium and the mortgage moratorium is going to end in September rather than July. I was referring mainly to the national numbers. So
national.
Thanks for clarifying. Thanks for whoever put it up as a clarification. So thank you very much.
Okay, Rich, anything to add on top of that? Any questions to Oscar?
No, that was me who mentioned that it was Oscar was talking about the national level, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew. State still September 30th, and who knows what LA City is going to do, when September 30th comes around. So, and I'm also going to put in the chat. There's a great quick guide that C.A.R. has done regarding AB 832. To pass along information to tenant and landlord clients. It gives a website as to, because the state is now reimbursing not 80% or paying up to 80% of the back rent. It's 100% to qualified applicants. So I'm going to put that quick guide in the chat for everybody.
Right. Thanks, Rich. And once again, we're going to share the recordings and all the content by C.A.R, Senior Economist, and Head of Research, Oscar Way. Oscar, thank you so much for your time. Again,
You're welcome.
as always, pleasure to have you.
You're very welcome, and I'm glad to be here. And thank you again for inviting me. I know, we have a changing market, and things have been pretty uncertain, at least at the beginning of the year. But of course, now that we have, a market that went through, a very robust period of 12 months or so, everyone wants to know what's going to happen in the next few months or so. Like you said, based on some numbers that I have, based on some analysis, I can give you some guidance. I don't really have a crystal ball, but I'll do my best.
You got it. All right. And once again, whoever's watching, if you have questions, send me an email. We can address them to Oscar, or once again, expect the email later today with all the information, and we'll take it from there. Thanks, everybody. Happy Wednesday, Long Beach, Calabasas, West Side. Thank you for participating. TLs, thank you so much for your time as well. Bye, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, Oscar.